Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was banished and found a new family in the sand part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. You wanted to see me, Grandma Tsunade. A voice sounded. A blonde-haired blue-eyed man walked into the Hokage's office, supporting his orange and black jumpsuit. His hands were buried in his pockets and even though it was late, he was still wearing his headband. Tsunade looked up from her stack of papers with a grim expression. Yes, Naruto. The blonde walked further into the office and stopped a few feet from her desk. All the while, Tsunade crossed her fingers together on her desk. I was told to have you escorted to the meeting room when you arrived. A bit confused, he asked, why? Tsunade sighed and uncrossed her hands before she stood up. All I know is that the elders want to have a meeting with you present. Naruto narrowed his blue eyes. All his confusion presented earlier disappeared. He didn't say anything. Come on, Naruto, let's get to the meeting room and be over with it. By the look she was expressing, Naruto could tell she didn't want to go either and that something bad was going to happen. XXXXX. The two walked quietly down one of the many hallways. Tsunade had took the lead while Naruto hung back a step or two. The walk didn't take that long and within a couple of minutes, the two blondes stood in front of a door marked, Elders. Tsunade glanced at Naruto before opening the door and walked in. The room was a medium-sized room, almost like a living room. In the center of the room were two couches facing each other and had a coffee table in between them. The walls were painted a dark red and had long blue curtains draping down to cover the windows. When Naruto made it into the room, he frowned. Why were his former teachers Iruka-sensei and Kakashi, and Master Jiraiya, doing here? Jiraiya was leaning against one of the walls, furthest away from the center of the room. He had his eyes closed and his arms crossed at his chest. Kakashi stood next to him with one foot propped up on the wall to support his weight while reading one of his make-out tactics books. Iruka stood right behind one of the couches, the empty one, and was looking off to the left, looking bored but nervous. Now, sitting on the empty couch, was the two old people, one male and the other female. The two oldest people in the Hidden Leaf Village, Koharu Utatane, girl, and Homura Mitokado. Boy. As if doing it a million times, though she probably has, Tsunade walked straight to the empty couch and plopped herself down. She didn't care about sitting up straight or acknowledging anyone in the room. Naruto, on the other hand, closed the door behind him and walked slowly over to where Iruka stood. Alright, can we get this meeting started already? Tsunade asked, annoyed. Jiraiya opened his eyes and Kakashi looked up from his book with his one visible eye. The two elders, who were watching Naruto with a disgusted look, looked at Tsunade. You should not address your elders that way, even if you're the Hokage, Tsunade. Homura stated in a calm voice. Tsunade just rolled her eyes. Well, as you know, we are having a meeting to discuss a problem that has been growing for quite some time now. Koharu sat up a bit straighter as she started the meeting. And what kind of problem is there? Jiraiya asked lazily. Homura, as quick as lightning, flickered his eyes to Naruto then right back to Jiraiya. Oh, I think you know. Being thankful that he had Kyuubi's sighting, Naruto noticed the look. He blinked his eyes a few times in disbelief. Wait, are you saying I'm the problem? The elders looked to him, but before either one of them could reply, Tsunade did. Whatever you're thinking, don't. Naruto is a part of this village. Her voice was dangerously low. I'm sorry, Tsunade, but we've had this demon far too long in our village. It's time for it to either leave, or die. Koharu said, unaffected by the Hokage's tone. He has been a part of this village since the day he was born. We are not throwing Naruto out. Like Tsunade, Jiraiya's voice was low and dangerous. Whatever demon you're talking about, never refer it to Naruto. He isn't the demon, the thing inside him is. Homura looked at them with piercing blue eyes. Now don't you start speaking that way either, Jiraiya. And as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't be saying anything at all. He said, referring to how the Toad Sage always left his village. But before Jiraiya could respond, Iruka did. If you won't let Master Jiraiya speak, then allow me. What he says is true. The demon is not Naruto, it is Kyuubi. Now Iruka, Homura tried to soothe him by his words. Remember your parents. That beast, he pointed in Naruto's direction. The blonde glared at him, but kept quiet. Killed them. Do you still want him here? No more than half a second later, Iruka gave them his reply. Yes. Both elders blink in surprise, though they quickly dismissed their reaction. Yes. I know that Naruto has everything under control. Just because he has a demon in him, doesn't make him one. In fact, it makes him opposite of a demon, a man who's loving, good, and fun to be around. Naruto has always been trying his best to show others that he is nothing like a demon. He helps change people for the better. If it wasn't for Naruto, this village wouldn't be the same. He looked next to him and smiled at the blonde. You can say all the good things about him, but we have already decided to cast him out. Koharu replied. She watched as Tsunade directed a glare at her. You cannot just make something up. As Hokage, you have to confront me first, and I'll say what can go. Now when Tsunade got mad, she got mad. Everyone who knew her by confronting her or meeting her or just heard of her, knew that she had a bad temper. And I don't mean as yelling. She liked to get physical and punch and throw things. Naruto watched as all of his friends, or teachers, stood up for him, risking being respectful to the elders. Though they probably didn't care if they're nice or mean to them, they deserved it. He bit his bottom lip. What's wrong, Kit? A silky voice asked in his head. They're all risking everything for me. And, isn't that a good thing? Naruto hesitated. Well, yeah, but. But what? Kyuubi asked. When Naruto didn't answer back, she sighed. What are you going to do? Before Naruto could think back to the nine-tailed fox, Tsunade's voice broke his train of thought. Naruto has made this his home. Casting him out is like casting the fourth Hokage out. A flicker of surprise crossed both of the elders' face. The fourth did everything in his power to keep our village safe and out of danger. He sealed the fox in his own child because he knew that Naruto would be able to keep it tamed. He died saving this village. Is that not enough? Before he died, his last words were to make sure everybody saw the good in Naruto and not the bad. He didn't want people to look and know him as the nine-tailed fox that killed most of our ninja. What you're doing now, you are not respecting his wish. Tsunade finished and waited for the elder's reply. Finally, after several silent moments, Homura sighed. I am sorry, but we've made up our minds. The fourth did what had to be done, but that still won't change people's mind about the fox staying in the village. Tsunade stood up. You are sick. Do you not? Enough. Naruto yelled. Everyone in the room looked to the blonde, surprise clearly shown on their faces. I've heard enough. Kakashi lowered his book and looked interested, though outraged that the elders were throwing his own student out. Naruto, Tsunade spoke softly like she was telling him bad news, but Naruto cut her off. No, Ba-chan. Thank you for everything you've done, but, if there are people here that do not think it's safe, then it's best if I leave. Naruto had his eyes trained on Tsunade. He gave her a smile, even though the smile never quite reached his eyes. Beside him, his hands were curled into fists. Screw what the other people think, Naruto. You are trained with the proper. Jiraiya started, but again, Naruto cut him off with a shake of his head. Pervy sage, you don't have to. All my life, I always tried to get people to like me for me. I actually thought I made it, but, there are still people who don't. Naruto's voice drops to an icy tone as he addressed the elders next. You made a mistake, but, as you want, I'll leave. For the first time since the meeting had started, Kakashi closed his book. Naruto, there's no need to do this. We will find a way out of this mess. Naruto shook his head without looking at his old sensei. Nah, that's okay, Kakashi, but can you tell Sakura and Sasuke nothing about this? I don't want them knowing I was banished. Yes, what about Sasuke, Naruto? You just got him back. If you leave, hell will break loose. Tsunade tried. What happens if you run into Orochimaru or the Akatsuki? The blonde just shrugged. I'll either fight or flee. But that's suicide, Iruka argued. Well, that won't be your concern anymore. Naruto said sadly. He looked at all of his senior friends before finally resting a glare on the elders. Kaharu looked calm by all what had happened. She spoke with no resentment or happiness. Glad that you see this our way. But now, I want you to know, Naruto Uzumaki, that when you leave the village, you are to never come back. If you do so, or step over our borders, then you will be executed. When you leave, you will be a Rouge ninja. Naruto just nodded his head before lowering it and turning on his heel to leave. Naruto, don't, Tsunade whispered. Her voice almost broke his heart, but he doesn't let it show. The nine-tailed fox child doesn't turn around as a shadow covered his eyes. Sorry, Ba-chan, but, don't make things harder than it seems. He starts walking towards the door. As he gripped the handle and pulled the door open, Jiraiya spoke up. Hey kid, be careful out there. Remember everything I taught you and I'll be seeing you. Naruto turned around a bit. Tsunade had tears in her eye, as did Iruka. Both Jiraiya and Kakashi stayed strong, but their eyes were expressing sorrow. I will, pervy sage. Naruto Uzumaki, age 20, turned around and walked away from his comrades and walked away from his life. 4 days later, a blonde ninja stood next to the 3 Sand siblings, Kankuro, Temari, and Gaara. Right after Naruto's banishment, the blonde had gone straight to his apartment, packed a few belongings such as food, clothing, a blanket, other important items, and 4 photos. After packing, he quickly departed his home village and settled out on going to the Sand Village. He ran all day, through the night, and the next day without stopping. He knew that if he had stopped, he would have broken down crying, so he pushed himself until he got to the village. When he had got to the village, he had a stone-hard face and luckily for him, Gaara was by the entrance of his village when he had spotted the familiar blonde. They banished you. How stupid could they get? Kankuro yelled as he paced the room. The 3 Sand ninjas, plus Naruto, were all in the council meeting room. They were all alone, seeing how this was no one else's business but theirs. Gaara was sitting in his chair, the one for the cage, with Temari standing off to his left side. Naruto was in the chair next to the 2, while Kankuro was still pacing. Naruto shrugged. I kind of already saw it coming. His voice wasn't its normal and full of life, but one full of pain. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. He tried not to feel sadness about the dramatic change in his life, but it was rather hard. He would never get to see his friends and village again. But, if you expected this, why didn't you do anything about it? Temari asked, slightly confused. Again, the blonde just shrugged. What was there I could have done? Tell Tsunade. As if she didn't have enough on her plate as it is. Try to figure it out on my own. Yeah, you've seen where it brought me. He sulked. Gaara spoke his normal, soft but stern tone. You could have contacted us. We could have done something. The feeling of tears threatened to form in Naruto's blue eyes. No, I couldn't have. You 3 already have. You don't get it. Kankuro stopped his pacing and slammed his hands on the table. Naruto looked at his enraged face. We respect you, Naruto, after everything you've done. You helped Gaara after the Chunin exam, you know how Gaara feels more than anyone else. Was it not for you, we wouldn't be who we are today. Naruto, you mean so much to us, we will always be there for you. Temari added much more gently than her brother. She sent him a look that meant to control yourself. Naruto smiled. Thanks Kankuro, Temari. At least. He doesn't finish his sentence, but the Sand siblings could already guess what he was going to say. The insides of him were calming down a bit, glad that he still had people to look after him and a new place to call home. Kankuro nodded and his face relaxed from his angered expression. He pushed off the table and stood next to his sister. It stayed quiet for a while. No one knew what to say, so they acknowledged each other's presence by staying quiet. Naruto looked around the room, seeming to relax. Today's events had tired him out, running for hours without stopping to take a break as he ran from his ex-village to the sand. He let out a breath of air as his memories switched back to the meeting. Finally, Gaara broke the calm silence and broke Naruto's train of memories, as he spoke, "So now that you have a place to call home, what will you be doing?" "Yes, what will you be doing, Kit?" Kyuubi purred. So she had been listening to everything that was going on. Answering both questions, Naruto shrugged. "I was thinking about traveling, meeting new people and reuniting with old. Go training, help people out. But you are coming back." It wasn't a question but a statement. Gaara watched as Naruto finally smiled one of his signature grins. "Of course. I can't stay too far from my home." A man of 22 jumped from one tree branch to another. He wore long orange pants with his same style black boots. He had on a black muscle shirt that couldn't be seen under his long sleeve, orange and black jacket. The man never changed his appearance from when he still lived in the village hidden in the leaves, except for having no headband and wore a long orange overcoat that went past his knees. On the bottom of the overcoat was red and black flames that had the effect that the flames were licking its way up, same on the sleeves that went a little past his elbows. The man's hair had grown a bit so that it now hung in his eyes, but it was the same blonde, spiked up hair, but now, it looked as if someone had dipped the ends in blood, all the tips were a royal color of red. "So Kit, what do you wanna do now?" A voice popped into his head. "Well, since I've been gone for more than 3 months, I thought it might be nice to visit home." Naruto thought back to Kyuubi. "I'm pretty sure Gaara wants to know that I'm still alive." In his mind, he watched the giant fox stand up and stretched before sitting back down. She yawned before replying back, "Not only that, but you want to show him your new just you." Naruto frowned and aloud, he responded back, "You know I can't do that. If I were to summon you Kyuubi, then Shukaku would try to loosen his imprisonment within Gaara. They too aren't as friendly as us." Kyuubi sighed. "Well, it was worth a try." He chuckled and pushed off of a tree branch, launching himself through the air. Yeah, I've been training for those 3 months to summon you without any trouble, and you want to be let out to cause trouble. What am I going to do with you?" "Well, I wouldn't say cause trouble, Kit, more like have a snack or two." The blonde frowned. I don't think so. I made great terms with the Sand Shinobi and I don't really intend to break feet." Kyuubi just sent a toothy grin to her host before letting out another yawn and lying her head down on her paws. Naruto stopped and landed on a tree branch to catch his breath. He stood and examined his surrounding as his thoughts swarms his head. A lot has happened since he was banished from his home. He lived with the Sand siblings in the land of the Sand, but he was always traveling, he never stayed in one place for too long. When the blonde traveled, he always visited some of his old friends that he helped years ago on missions when he was still a part of Squad 7. He would stay with them for a while before leaving to travel again. When he doesn't have anyone to visit, he usually went back to the sand or went to a wide open plain where you couldn't find a town for at least 100 miles radius, to train. Naruto usually just trained with another clone of his or, if he truly wanted to fight, summon Kyuubi in a smaller form. To summon Kyuubi took a lot of chakra. There was many hand signs to remember and a chant that had to be said once. If he messed up anywhere when performing the hand signs, he got knocked out for a few days. Sometimes, it even lasted up to a week. It all just depended on which fox he was trying to summon. It took him over a year to perfection the summon and to keep it maintained. There are a lot of different summoning he could do. Summon a average size fox, resembling the actual nine-tailed fox who had powerful attacks, a different type of fox that was the size of a baby elephant or a small car that had the chakra look to it. And when Naruto goes into the fourth-tailed fox, he has that chakra look to him, and the last one, his and Kyuubi's most favorite, summoning the actual fox. True, Naruto still had the seal on his tummy, concealing the fox within him, but the blonde-haired genius found a way around it without breaking it. When he brings the fox out, whichever one it is, a part of it stays inside the teen, even if the fox looks complete. So, let's say he brought the entire fox out. You can see the fox looking real and everything, which she is, but a fraction of her is still in Naruto, if that makes sense. Anyways, as easy as summoning the fox out, it was 10 times easier to send her right back into him. To beckon Kyuubi forth took many hand signs, but to send her back was as easy with only one hand sign. What I'm trying to say, it's very easy to put her back in jail if she was misbehaving. Yeah, if that doesn't make sense, tell me. Now summoning Kyuubi wasn't Naruto's only new jutsu, oh no, he had many others. Well, not that many, but some. Take his Rasengan for an example. Yes, it was powerful, but under his own training methods, made it even stronger and powerful. There are many others, kind of, but they'll come up sooner or later. Now, you're probably wondering what happened to Naruto's old village, Konoha. They're still there, still staying strong and missing a certain blonde. When Naruto left, everyone noticed immediately, I mean, who wouldn't? Someone as loud as him. They, meaning Naruto's friends, asked Tsunade about it, but she would never tell them the truth. All she would tell them was that Naruto Uzumaki left and wasn't coming back. Somehow, after several days of complaining, Sakura managed to pry some of the important details out of her sensei. Tsunade only told the Pinkett the major things like the elders banished him and that he wasn't allowed to come back. She never did tell her apprentice that if the blonde were to come back, he'd die, or the exact reason the elders banished him. But, most people guessed the reason why the elders banished him. Now, when Sakura heard the news, her heart broke like it did when Sasuke had left to go with Orochimaru. And when she told her only teammate left, Sasuke, boy, did hell almost break loose. He demanded the elders that Naruto was to come back, but they refused. The Raven was so furious that he gathered a group of his and Naruto's close friends to go search for him and bring him back, but both Kakashi and Jiraiya stopped them. There was nothing that could be done. Flashback. About a year back, before Naruto changed his appearance, he was at a little town in the land of mist and fog, having a drink when he ran into an old friend. Jiraiya. They were both surprised, but happy. The two sat down and talked for a good 3 hours. They talked about Naruto's what was going on with him, talked about Jiraiya's book, and about Naruto's friends. They really miss you, you know. Jiraiya had said, I know, but there isn't much I or any of them could have done. The blonde looked down at the clay cup of tea his hands were wrapped around. Jiraiya snorted, causing the blonde to look up. Naruto, there was a lot you could have done, but you didn't. You could have shown those lazy elders that you belonged in the village. You could. I could have what? Naruto yelled. I could have done so much but none of it would have mattered, Jiraiya. His hands tightened around the cup until it broke, tea spilling everywhere. A light red chakra started to spew from the man, but Jiraiya and him ignored it. No matter what I did, or would have done, the elders would still have banished me. The book writer crossed his arms against his chest. No, they wouldn't have. The day of the meeting, what Kakashi had said, he meant it. We would have helped you find a way to overcome the elders. They didn't have a right to take you from your home. I did what was right. The blonde looked away, glaring at some people who looked over to the two with curious expressions. Once seeing the glare and red chakra still radiating off of the boy, they quickly looked away. You may have done what you thought right, Naruto, but what about everyone else that cared about you? Jiraiya's voice softened a bit. You don't know what it's been like for them, especially for Sasuke and Sakura. Sakura just got her missing teammate back, just to lose another. Do you know what it's been like for them? How can a Anbu captain focus on his work and protecting his village when he's worried about his friend? Naruto let an angry sigh out. It wasn't my choice to leave. I could have left the village quietly, or been forced out. No matter what, pervy sage, I had to leave. Why won't you understand that? Said man looked like he was about to argue, but Naruto quickly continued. What's been done has been done. It's time to not live in the past anymore. I didn't want to change how I was just to please a few people. The people there didn't feel safe with a demon child living in the village. The red glow slowly started to dissolve away from him. Like I said before, Naruto, it doesn't matter what they think. The blonde slammed his fists onto the table and stood up, the red glow quickly coming back. His face was a mixture of rage and sorrow. You don't know what it's like to grow up and always having people hate you. To have a whole village hate you. I was lucky to gain friends and felt like I finally belonged somewhere. But, even then, the villagers still hated me. I'm sick and tired of it. So you're happy that you left? It wasn't a question but a statement. Naruto closed his eyes. Halfly. I wanted to leave to get away from them, but, he said, referring to the people of the village that hated him, then I'd miss everyone. I miss my friends, my home. He sighed. But I can't go back. Jiraiya just nodded. It's your own option, Squirt. Just promise me one thing. Naruto opened his eyes and raised an eyebrow. What? The Toad Sage opened his eyes too. If you ever have a problem, find me or Tsunade or me. I don't care what the others say, just come to us. End of flashback. Kit. Hey Kit. The sound of Kyuubi's growling broke Naruto out of his memory world. He blinked a few times to find himself still standing on a tree branch. What's wrong, Kyuubi? Naruto asked aloud. The fox had been pacing and growling in his mind. About time. Anyways, about a mile from here, there are a group of bandits. It seemed that they just slaughtered a village. The blonde grimaced. Even though this was how Naruto earned money, helping villages kill bandits that rob them, he never liked it. Sure, helping the villages was nice, but he hated it when the group of bad men slaughtered innocents just to get new stuff. All right, which direction? Northwest, 2.6 miles from here. As soon as the fox gave the direction, Naruto vanished from the tree branch and ran as fast as he could towards the bandits. As he was running, Kyuubi asked, "Why must we do this? It's so annoying." The blonde sighed before answering, "We do this because it's not fair for the villagers. And, I also do this for the good of the people. If the bandits are dead, the other villages will be safe." The fox just rolled her eyes. Within minutes, Naruto came to a stop behind a large, rounded tree. On the other side of the tree was a camp. Tents were up, but only a few of them were in use. A few horses were relaxing off to the side while someone was attending to them. On the other side of the clearing, were huge bags full of goodies, probably from the villages. Now, in the middle of the camping grounds, was a group of people. Well, men to be exact, seeing as there was no presence or sightings of a female anywhere. There must have been at least 20 guys, all lounging around a fire. They all had plates of food or a cup of what Naruto guessed as wine. Some of the men looked a bit buzzed. One of the men, dressed in a filthy, what looked to be a white shirt, black pants, open-toed sandals and a lot of jewelry, rings, necklaces, etc., was lying back in a chair that looked of royalty, eating something. He looked up from his now empty plate and barked out, "Hey! Where's my next meal?" A girl, no more than 11 years old, walked into view. She was wearing a filthy, torn dress that came way above her knees. From where Naruto stood, he could make out all of the scars, open, bleeding gashes, and bruises she received. Some of them looked old, perhaps a week or two old, while others looked fresh. The girl had long, brown hair that went to her waist. She was slender, maybe a little too slender, and pretty tall. But what made Naruto really notice her was the chains around her wrists and neck. They were like handcuffs, but with an added part. The cuff around her neck was connected to the chains around her wrists. She's their slave, Naruto whispered in disbelief and disgust. It wasn't rare to see bandits take slaves, but that didn't mean Naruto still had to like it. What are you going to do? Kyuubi asked. Naruto couldn't tell what her voice represented: anger, surprised, sick to the stomach. The blonde glared as he watched the girl deliver the plate to the man who yelled. The man greedily took the plate, then shoved the girl out of the way. She didn't do anything, but stood a bit off to the side with her head bowed low so that she was looking down at the ground. Naruto clenched his hands into fists. I'm going to teach them a lesson. As soon as the words left his mouth, he disappeared in a gust of wind. XXXXX. Hey, get me some more beer. The same man from before yelled. He scratched his budging tummy with one hand as he held his other out with an empty mug. The girl came running over to take the mug but was stopped. Standing before her was a man she's never seen before. He has bright blonde hair with the tips dyed blood red, an orange and black jumpsuit and a black overcoat that had red and black flames at the bottom. Hey, didn't you hear me? The man yelled viciously. Being unaware that a newcomer had arrived, he shook his mug impatiently in the air. You know, it's rather rude to yell at a lady, Naruto said. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted it hard, making him let the mug go. Startled and in pain, the man turned around, finally aware of the newcomer. Who the fuck are you? He lashed out. From his startled cry, the man's men all looked up from whatever they were doing. They all glared at the blonde as they got to their feet and grabbing for their weapons that lay next to them. My name doesn't concern you, Naruto replied, his voice cold but rather calm. But what does concern me is that you slaughtered a village and took one as your slave. He said, pointing to the frightened girl behind him. The man looked from the blonde to the girl then back to him. He sneered then said, I didn't take her, moron, she is my daughter. The hand around the man's wrist tightened and a dark red glow started to illuminate off the blonde. Some of the men backed away but not very far. The man in front of Naruto had fear flash through his eyes but it quickly passed, taking its place was a cold glare. What the? Let me go. The man yelled trying to pull away. But Naruto continued to glare at him and hold his wrist tightly. The red chakra started to come out in waves now. The man took one last look at the blonde before looking back at his men, yelling, well, what are you waiting for, an invite? Attack him already. The men immediately let out a battle cry and ran at Naruto, raising their weapons. Being used to battles, Naruto let the man go and spun around, taking the girl into his arms. The girl didn't move or say anything as Naruto pushed off the ground and high into the trees above them. He landed on a branch and gently set the girl on her feet. Stay here, he whispered. The little girl nodded. She clutched her hands against her chest as if in a worried way, which he was, and took a step back. Naruto nodded before jumping off the branch and landing exactly where he had been seconds ago. The attackers were in a circle waiting for the blonde to come down. And right when he did, they all, at the same time, launched their attacks. Swords and axes were swung at the blonde as he dodged them and brought a kunai knife out. The men around him started laughing. A tiny knife. What's that going to do? Make a tiny cut. The blonde smirked at the man's stupidity and brought out another kunai from his pouch on his left hip. But this one was different, it had a tag connected to its end. He jumped high into the air and threw the exploding tag down at the men. The tag exploded, killing a few stunned men while injuring many. Some were lucky, and smart enough, to jump out of the way. Jack, you're going to die, one of the men yelled, causing Naruto to roll his eyes as he landed softly on the ground. Once getting back up, the men ran at the blonde, ignoring their wounds. They raised the swords and axes and other weapons up. But, knowing better, Naruto crossed his two hands forming a cross and yelled, Shadow Clone Justu. Many of the same men started to form all around the clearing. All of the clones smirked at the confused men before the clones started to attack, each one first, pulling a kunai out of their pouches. The hell is this? One man yelled before getting slaughtered. Blood started to stain the perfectly green grass as the clones and men fought. When one clone was defeated by an enemy, another one took its place, followed up by another so that it was 1-on-2. Within minutes, more than half the men laid dead while the other half was badly wounded but still standing. Hey brat, don't forget about me. The man from before, most likely the leader of the bandits, yelled. He raised his sword into the air and slashed at one of the Narutos, hoping it would be the real one. But it wasn't. It was a clone. The clone popped away. Damn it. Which one is the real one? He started to slash at the other clones he came in contact with, but they too ended up being clones. Why? Keep doing that, and eventually you'll know where the real me is. A voice said from above. The man looked up just in time to be punched in the jaw. He stumbled backwards as another fist made contact with his stomach, then his other side of the jaw. As he stumbled, Naruto grabbed the some kunai from his pouch and threw it at the man. The knives thrown at the man embedded themselves into his arms, legs and his throat, pinning him to the tree that was behind him. The sword dropped from his grasp and fell to the forest floor with a clang. Blood started to seep from his wounds, especially the wound in his neck. He tried to move, but was getting weak from the amount of blood he was losing. Why? He garbled in a low voice. Blood started to spew from his mouth in a long river-like manner. It flowed down his chin and dripped off, landing on the grass. Naruto walked up to the dying man and squatted down in front of him. Because, you bag of shit. You slaughtered a whole village, probably countless numbers of them, took their belongings and, you abused your own daughter. That's not how a father should act. What I do to my own daughter is of none of your concern. He tried to lash out but came out more of a moan. The blonde smirked, and the red chakra that continued to come off of him started to vanish. Well, it is now. He stood back up and looked down at the helpless, dying man on the ground. You are a bastard. I hope you rot in hell. You and many others. Naruto left the man to die as he pushed off the ground with his legs. That was so boring. Kyuubi yawned. In the background, the clones that were left poofed out of existence. There was hardly any action. Naruto doesn't say anything as he landed on the same tree branch he was on only minutes ago. Curled into a tight ball and leaning against the tree trunk was the girl. She watched him with round, green eyes that were filled with fear. The blonde walked over to her in a calm manner and squatted down next to her. In a gently voice that you'd be shocked to hear, because he just finished killing people and to be able to get it to that gently, he said, I highly doubt you want to go down there, it's not a pretty sight. The girl's eyes peered down over the side of the branch, but when Naruto cleared his throat, she immediately flickered her eyes back to him. If you want, I can take you to a different village. There's one a few miles from here, one where your father didn't attack. The girl shook her head. With a bony finger, she pointed it at Naruto. The blonde furrowed his eyebrows in confusion. In his head, he asked the fox, what does she mean? The fox, who's been paying attention, also furrowed her eyebrows. I don't know, but I think she might want to stay with you. Naruto nodded before saying, I'm assuming you want to stay with me. The girl nodded her head before taking her finger back. Why? After a moment of silence, the girl spoke, though her voice was dry and cracked like she hadn't drunk water in a day or two. You killed my master. Now you're my new master. Both Kyuubi and Naruto both stared at her in surprise. Boy, were they not expecting that. Master. Naruto stuttered. No, I know, I'm not going to be anyone's master. The girl's eyes doubled in size as she quickly looked away. I didn't mean to make you mad. Please, don't punish me, master. Her voice was full of fear and sorrow. Naruto couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She's most likely been having a horrible life as a slave and having to live with an abusive father. He reached out to take her hand when she flinched away. The blonde sighed before gently taking a hold of hers, this time succeeding. Come on, let's get out of here first before we talk. The girl looked up at him and didn't say anything. Naruto stood up and helped the girl to her feet. Unsure what else to do, he scooped her up into his arms, bridal style, and pushed off hard against the tree, quickly disappearing from sight. The girl squeezed her eyes shut as she buried her head in Naruto's chest. He looked down at her and his heart broke more. She's scared, Kyuubi observed. I would be too if my life was like that, but how could someone treat a little girl like this? Naruto thought as he landed on a tree and pushed off of it. I don't know, kid, but what are you going to do with her? The blonde thought for a moment, thinking back, I'll drop her off at a village, but with a good family to take care of her. I can't take her with me, it's much too dangerous. The fox nodded her gigantic head. So, Naruto said aloud. My name's Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki. What's yours? The little girl opened one eye and looked at him. Sana. Her voice lost some of its dryness and the cracking, and in its place was a soft voice. Naruto smiled. Well, nice to meet you, Sana. And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Sana paused before saying, E11. Exactly what I told you, Kit. Kyuubi purred, happy that she thought the age right. Yeah, he thought before asking aloud, I don't mean to bring this up, but, did you like your father? Sana, as he expected, winced and buried her head against his chest again. I hated him, she whispered so softly, that if he didn't have Kyuubi's hearing, he would have missed it. He nodded. Well, so you didn't mind me killing him? She shook her head. After that, Naruto remained silent as he left Sana to her own thoughts. He continued to jump from tree to tree, trying to be gently with each landing. She fell asleep. Kyuubi stated after half an hour. Naruto blinked and looked down to indeed find the girl asleep. Huh, you're right. But, we're almost to the town, should I wake her? Nah, it'll be easier to rid of her when she's asleep. The blonde nodded before angling his body for a landing. His feet touched the ground right outside of the town's entrance. Having the sleeping girl in his arms, he walked casually into the village as if it was his own. Naruto laid the little 11-year-old Sana on a bed. He had taken the chains off of her wrists and neck before he found a family willing to take her in. Now he started at her as she curled up into a ball on the bed, breathing softly. He couldn't help but smile. The wife, whose name escaped the blonde, spoke after he left the room. We'll look after her as if she was our own. Naruto nodded. Thank you for taking her in. You have such kind hearts. Oh please, Kyuubi rolled her eyes. The wife nodded and led Naruto out of the house. But before he left, she asked, what will I tell the child when she wakes up? That she is free and will never be owned again. The lady looked at him weirdly but shrugged her shoulders. Well, I must go now. Take care of her. With that, Naruto took off running through the town to the entrance. The lady was waving to him as she watched him go. XXXXX. The 22-year-old sat on a tree branch with one leg dangling over the side while the other was propped up. He rested his arm on his leg and scanned his surroundings with a sigh. You seem to be in an awfully gloomy mood today, Kit. What's wrong? Kyuubi purred, worried for him. Naruto shrugged and answered aloud. I don't know. Kyuubi stood up and sat down instead of her usual lying down. HMPH, well, maybe you'll feel better once you get home. It must be because you're homesick. Naruto shrugged again. That could be a possibility. He has been gone longer than normal, but something in his mind told him that wasn't it. It was something more. Well, break over. Might as well go home since there's nothing else to do. He stood up and dusted off his jacket. Before he could so much as move an inch, Kyuubi's head perked up and had a hard glare set on her face. We have a followed, she growled. Where? Naruto crouched low to the tree and brought a kunai out. He hated it when people started to trail him. But, If they ever find him, they were usually punched to a pulp. I can't tell. Everywhere. Her voice was full of confusion. Everywhere. That can't be possible unless it was a group of people. Naruto stated, now sensing the followed. But, as he sensed it, he realized it was only one person. He pushed his back up against the trunk of the tree and braced himself. He carefully started to watch his surroundings. The wind blew gently like it had been all day, the only change had been the sun slowly setting. Naruto stayed in his crouching position for a few minutes, his legs cramping a bit. But, he never moved except for his heart beating in its normal beat. The kunai was in a death position, only needing to swipe at the person's neck for them to be killed. Intruder almost here and they're approaching pretty fast. Kyuubi announced. Naruto slowly peeked around the tree to find more trees. No one was approaching unless they were invisible or so small that it would take a magnified glass to see them. There's no intruder, Kyuubi, he frowned and turned back around. He almost jumped a foot into the air and let a small shriek out. Crouching before him was a little girl with long brown hair and bright, green eyes. Sana. She watched him with curious but hurt eyes. Sana. How? Where? How did you get here? Naruto stuttered out. He waited for her to respond but she didn't. She just simply tilted her head to the side as if confused. Okay. Why aren't you with that family? They must be worried sick that you left them. But still, she did not answer. He furrowed his blonde eyebrows. Maybe she wanted to be with you. You did save her, Kit. Kyuubi also sounded confused as she eyed the girl in front of them. The blonde bit his bottom lip, considering things. Finally, after a few minutes of silence, he said, I'm guessing you want to come with me. Sana's eyes brightened and she nodded her head. Alright, but, to let you know, things might not always be safe. I'm always on the road, doing small missions like killing people. He waited for the girl to respond, but again, she didn't. Hey, are you gonna talk to me? Sana only started at him with her green orbs. She didn't speak or nod her head or even shake it. She just simply watched him. What am I supposed to do? She won't talk. Naruto thought to the fox, half irritated, half disappointed. I don't know. Maybe she's mad at you because you left her. Kyuubi guessed. But, let's not dwell on the past, we should be heading home. It's getting kind of dark. Naruto nodded. Aloud, he said to Sana, well, I'm on my way home, but, that's a day's trip from here if I run. But, seeing as you should probably be able to keep up with me, we'll walk. Sound okay? Surprising him, she shook her head and stood up. We'll run. She spoke with such a soft voice, she reminded him of one of his friends, Hinata. She took one step away from Naruto and jumped down from the tree. The blonde raised an eyebrow. Okay. He got to his feet and jumped down from the tree. Already a few trees away from him, was Sana. She was waiting for him patiently. How'd she get over there so fast? He asked Kyuubi. The fox just shrugged like she didn't care and lay back down, stretching. Mimicking her, Naruto also shrugged and ran over to Sana. Together, the two ran at a pretty fast pace. Amazing him, Sana kept up with him when the blonde doubled his speed. Who is this girl? Naruto thought to himself. No one should be able to keep up with me. The only person that could was always Gaara. Jiraiya could try too, but soon I was passing him. A few hours passed before they stopped for a break. They rested next to a huge oak tree and Sana sat down on one of its roots that was sticking out. Naruto stayed standing and crossed his arms over his chest. Where'd you learn to run like that? He asked, breaking the silence. She looked at him. I've always been able to run like that, even since I can remember. Her voice was still soft and wasn't panting. The blonde nodded before asking, do you what I am? The girl shook her head, wondering why he was asking that. I'm a ninja. Do you know what ninja are? She nodded but didn't say anything. Alright. One more question, do you know what chakra is? Like her first answer, she shook her head. Naruto paused thinking. She has the ability to become a ninja, but she doesn't know what chakra is. From her aura, I can tell she has some, well, a lot. Weird that he's asking her that, but why not? Sana, how would you like to become a ninja? I could teach you anything you would like to know, and I take it you wanted to be traveling with me. But, if you do, I need to be able to trust you not to get killed because you didn't know anything. What do you say? Sana's eyes rounded like a kid's on Christmas. She nodded her head eagerly. Naruto smiled but looked her over. But first, we need to get you out of those clothes. XXXXX. Naruto and Sana had continued to run, and in half an hour, they stopped at the next town. They found a clothes store, and for the next hour, Sana was trying on clothes, just like any particular girl. Though, she was very nervous and shy and felt like she was doing something wrong. Naruto couldn't blame her. After being with an abusive father, Naruto had to keep reminding the girl that it was alright and she was doing nothing wrong. Finally, without breaking Naruto's wallet, she found herself a ninja outfit. As they were leaving, Naruto holding the bags, he said, "We'll be staying here tonight. Tomorrow, while we travel, I'll teach you the basics. But, after dinner and showers tonight, I'll explain what chakra is." He glanced over at the small girl to find her looking around. At her sides, her hands were curled in fists. Strange, Naruto thought. For the next hour, Naruto checked into a hotel with nice springs. They ate supper at a ramen shop. Well, Naruto ate, and Sana played with hers but ate some of it like her stomach wasn't able to contain it, all the while with the blonde watching her. He wasn't going to take an eye off of her. 1, because he didn't trust her cause they just met, and 2, well, he just didn't yet trust her. So, Naruto said, finishing his ramen. Sana instantly looked up from her ramen bowl. Let's start the lesson. He turned his to the side so it would be easier to address her. You said you didn't know what chakra was, right? Well, to make the definition easier for you to understand, it's the energy required in order to perform ninjutsu. What's ninjutsu? Sana asked. Ninjutsu is. Before he could explain, Kyuubi asked, are you sure it's alright to teach her? What if she doesn't have what it takes to become a ninja? She does. If she didn't, she'll figure that out. I don't know, Kit. For some reason, I don't think you should be anywhere near her. She doesn't feel right. To Naruto, it was almost rare to hear Kyuubi feel uneasy. If they were ever in a tough situation, she never sounded like this. He could count on one hand how many times Kyuubi felt uneasy and said something about it. And most of them was when he was sick and was about to be ambushed by people, or was close to dying. What kind of feeling? Naruto thought, become alerted. The fox then sighed. I'll tell you later, the girl is confused. He blinked and realized the fox was right. Sana was watching him confused eyes. To recover, he smiled his goofy trade smile and scratched the back of his head. Sorry, was just thinking about the old days. He lied. Well, ninjutsu is like martial arts. Sana looked away feeling stupid. Oh, I should have known that. Naruto chuckled. Hey, don't worry about it. Some people have no clue what it is, and they are like 100 years old. But, anyways, you now know what chakra is. Come on, let's go find a nice tree to climb. He set some money on the counter for their meals and stood up. Sana followed him without a further comment. As they walked, Naruto looked over his shoulder. Sana was directly behind him with her eyes casted downward, not looking up. He noticed her still in the torn tan dress he found her in. Hey, do you wanna take a bath and change into your clothes first? He asked. She looked up, wide-eyed, then looked down to what she was wearing. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, he quickly said. But the girl shook her head. A bath would be nice. Especially wearing something new, she said and glanced up to see if he was okay with it. The blonde nodded before changing direction and heading back towards the hotel they were staying at. Within 20 minutes, The two were cleaned and dressed. Naruto was still wearing exactly what he was wearing, but first got it washed. Sana was entirely different. Instead of wearing the filthy, torn dress, she now was wearing a black tank top, black short shorts, fingerless fishnet gloves that went up to her elbows, fishnet leggings and knee-high black boots that had a heel to them. On her right hip was a pouch containing knives, other useful thing, and a medicine kit. On her leg held all of the paper bombs. Her long brown hair had been trimmed by a lady from the springs and was now pulled up into a high ponytail. "You look great," Naruto observed when she had walked out of the changing rooms. A light pink spread across the 11-year-old girl's face. She looked down at her feet, embarrassed. Thanks." The blonde chuckled. "Come on, let's go find a tree first, then I'll explain things." As they were walking, he couldn't help but look over his shoulder. "So Sana," she looked up and met his blue eyes. "I gotta know, especially if I'm taking you under my wing. Why did you want to come with me? I don't accept people tagging along with me, so you better have a good reason." He waited for a few minutes, watching curiously as the girl's face turned from a curious expression to expressing nothing. "Like I said before, I have to follow you, you're my mater." Her voice had gone so soft that Naruto would have missed what she said if not for his high hearing that he adapted from Kyuubi. Since he heard the answer, anger flickered across his face and his eyes turned blood red. He stopped walking. Unaware by the suddenness, Sana bumped into him. "I am not your master." Naruto growled and spun around, grabbing her arms tightly. The small girl's eyes widened in terror. She tried to take a step back, but he wouldn't let her. His blood-red eyes stared into her green, and she then noticed that his pupils were slit like a cat's. Naruto kneeled down until he was at eye level with her. "I never want you to think that way again, Sana. You are free to say and do what you want. You no longer have a master, nor is anyone going to be one. Do you understand? I don't want you to say that again or I will leave you in a village and won't give you time to come after me." Sana barely nodded her head. She could feel tears wanting to form, but she couldn't cry. It was against her own rule, never show true emotion. But, how the blonde had yelled, scarred her so much, how could she not cry? Naruto must have noticed. His eyes averted back to his original, hard blue gaze and his grip on her softened so much that he was barely holding her. "I didn't mean to be so harsh. Sometimes I forget about being gently. But, just remember, feel free to speak what's on your mind. There's no one here to hurt you, or to judge you. If they do, consider their asses kicked, alright." His voice softened so much that you would have thought he was a totally new person. Alright, Naruto," Sana whispered, still a bit scared. He chuckled and stood up. "That's the first time you've said my name. Come on, let's go." Sana could only nod and walk after him, unsure what to feel. XXXXX. It was well after midnight when they stepped into a small clearing that was surrounded by trees. Naruto leaned against one of the trees and watched Sana look around and came to a stop a few feet in front of him. "Your first lesson," Naruto started. Sana flickered her green eyes over to the blonde. "You'll be climbing trees." Sana buried her eyebrows down in a confused way. "But, I already know." "With your hands, yes," Naruto interrupted. "But, we'll be climbing the trees with our feet using chakra." To demonstrate what he was talking about, he crossed his fingers to form a cross and pushed off the tree. Sana watched in wonder as he walked towards a different tree and started to climb up it. Being able to focus all your chakra to your feet is harder than it looks, but it's very useful in battle. By now, he walked to a high branch. Instead of standing on top of the branch, he was standing upside down with his arms crossed at his chest. "How do you do that?" Sana asked, very surprised and looked eager to learn. Naruto smiled. "You have to build enough stamina necessary to complete your task once the chakra has been focused," he said, reciting what his old sensei had told him, so many years ago. He unfolded his arms and reached into his pouch located on his left hip. As he was talked, he rummaged around it and pulled something out. Now, cross your fingers together like how I did, it's how you form a jutsu. Sana did as she was told and crossed her fingers together. Now, focus all of the energy of your chakra towards the soles of your feet and use that power to climb the tree. Pick any tree you want. The object Naruto had pulled out, he thrown it to the ground where Sana was standing. She peered down at it to see a kunai. I want you to mark each time you run up the tree. The object of this is to mark higher and higher with each try. Sana nodded and reached down to pick the kunai up. She looked at Naruto, who nodded, before taking a running start at a tree. 10 minutes hadn't even gone by when Sana made it to one of the top branches of the tree. She threw the kunai to the earth floor where Naruto was leaning on a tree. The blonde smiled. Great job, Sana. Come on down. The brunette nodded, but instead of jumping down branch to branch, like how most people did it, she disappeared. Naruto blinked, confused, but then going on defensive. A kunai was immediately in hand and he took up a fighting stance, scanning his surroundings. Where'd she go? You never know when someone is out to get you. And as if answering his thoughts, he felt a presence beside him. Turning that way, was the 11-year-old girl. See, this is what I've been talking about. Kyuubi suddenly growled. Naruto blinked and lowered his weapon. How'd? He pointed to where the empty tree was to where Sana was just standing. How'd you get here so fast? Where did you go? What do you mean? Sana asked. I mean, usually it takes about, well, a lot longer to get back to the floor than what you did. How'd you do it? He tried to explain. The ninja in training just shrugged. I don't know. I've always been able to do that. I'm in one place, then I think about a different one, and poof, I'm there. Sometimes, I can poof to a really far place, like miles away. Oh, that makes sense. Naruto said, putting the pieces together. Well, at least we found one of your special jutsus. Sana looked at him with curious eyes. We do. What is it? The blonde smiled. Not many ninjas can doing it, especially go as far as you said. And it is teleportation. Without even noticing, 3 weeks had gone by. Naruto decided to stay in the little village to train Sana before going home. And, well, it was a good thing he stayed. The surroundings Sana was in helped her a lot. Instead of always traveling like she did with her father, she seemed more relaxed, learned more, and started to trust Naruto. Before, even though she thought Naruto was her master, she had no trust for him. But now, there was. Even though it has only been 3 weeks, Sana learned everything as if it had been 2 years. Things that took most ninjas months to learn, took Sana hours. This had surprised Naruto very much. The two got stuff done in very little time. At some points in time, the blonde always wondered how she was able to do it, but nothing ever came to mind. Kyuubi told him that there was something off about her, something that she had never sensed in anyone before. And when an all-powerful demon like that says something like that, it's bad news. But, Naruto said they would worry about it later. Sana, wake up, a voice whispered, driving the girl out of her dreams. She blinked, her eyes opened and yawned. She looked up into the friendly blue eyes of her sensei. We're leaving, Naruto started. He was crouched down next to her, already dressed for the day, his normal orange clothes and overcoat. At those words, all sleep vanished from Sana's mind. Already? Where are we going? The excitement in her voice made the blonde smile, reminding him a bit of himself years ago. I'm going home and you're coming with me, he said, standing straight. It's been a few months since I've visited my home. Sana wiggled out from under her blankets and started to tie her long brown hair up. She slipped into her knee-high boots and fishnet gloves. While she got ready, Naruto folded her blankets up and placed them in the bag he had bought for her. He didn't have a bag. Instead, he had a pouch that he kept on his hip where he stored his important things, and everything else, like his own blanket, was already gone. How far is your home? It's about a normal day run from here. But, between your speed and mine, We could make it in about half a day. Well, that is if you're up to it. He added when Sana got to her feet. The girl nodded. Alright, I'm up for a good run. Naruto nodded, and within 10 minutes, the two were running out of town while the first rays of the sun started to shine. As the two ran, their pace matching one another, Naruto looked over to find his apprentice with an emotionless expression. He looked back ahead of him and spoke with a normal voice, "You know, if there's anything you wanna talk about, anything at all, you can say it." Sana turned her bright green eyes to Naruto before quickly looking away. She nodded but didn't say anything. Naruto let out a silent sigh but let the silence wash over them. While they ran, a sleepy voice poked around his thoughts. He rolled his eyes before addressing the fox. "G-morning, Kyuubi. Sorry to have waken you." He received an annoyed growl. Hey, we had to wake up early to arrive at the sand in a few hours." Naruto thought back. Yes, but couldn't you have done so smoother? Kyuubi asked, annoyed. In Naruto's mind, she uncurled herself before stretching. Whatever, was all Naruto thought back. He jumped over a fallen tree and continued to keep running. Oh, hey Kyuubi. What do you think Gaara would say when he sees Sana? How the hell am I supposed to know? He shrugged. Just wonderin'. Kyuubi let a low, irritated growl escape her throat. Wonder to yourself next time, Kit. The blonde let out a low chuckle. Man, was she not a morning fox? Sana looked over at her sensei when he laughed. What's funny? She asked. Naruto looked over. Oh, I was laughing aloud. Sorry. But I was just thinking. Oh, okay. She mumbled. They ran in silence for a while longer before she asked, were you talking to Kyuubi? The blonde almost tripped over his own feet but he quickly caught his balance. How do you know about her? He asked, shocked. Sana shrugged. I've heard you mumble to her in your sleep. And also, she said, but her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. My father talked about her a lot. Naruto narrowed his eyes, as did Kyuubi. What all did he say? Well, what everybody had said. She was a vile, horrible creature and was trapped inside an infant 20-something years ago. Then, when the baby grew up, the people in the village called him demon and didn't trust him because of the 9 tails. She whispered. She took a peek over at Naruto only to find his face washed of all emotion. Quickly, she adds, but, I don't agree with what everyone says. The fox could be bad, but, she could also be good too. When the blonde didn't say anything, she continued, and as for the kid, how can he be a demon when he helped a girl get rid of her abusive father and been nice to her ever since? It doesn't make any sense. Now Naruto looked at her. He stopped running and just stood there. Sana also stopped but was a few feet in front of him. She turned to face him. So, you know what I am and you still haven't run away screaming? He asked. Sana furrowed her slender eyebrows slightly. Why would I run away screaming? All you've ever shown me is kindness. It doesn't matter what you have inside you. All that does is how you act. The blonde smiled sadly. Only if they could see it that way. He mumbled. I'm sorry. Who could see it that way? Naruto blinked his eyes a few times. Huh. Sana repeated what she said. Oh, it's my old village. Her eyes widened. Old village? But, how is that possible? I mean, you're going home, which is your village. How is it old? It's a long story, Naruto said, half-heatedly. Sana nodded. Long stories usually help pass the time easier. If you want, we could walk and talk. Naruto mimicked her nodding and they both started to walk, evenly matching their paces. She really trusts you, Kit. Kyuubi mumbled. And she's getting more louder and confident when speaking. The blonde nodded in agreement. I live in the sand village, that's my new home. He began. My real home, the village where I grew up, made friends and lived, was the village hidden in the leaves. I lived there ever since I was 20. And now, I'm 22. Well, when I was a kid, all of the villagers, and I do mean all, hated me because the 9 tails lived inside me. They called me all sorts of names and always abused me. Well, like throwing things at me when I walked by. I was a lot younger than you, Sana. But, a lot of that changed. He closed his eyes as he relived the painful memories. I'll go into details later about most things, but for now, I'll start when the day things started happening. He opened his eyes. He talked about when he was a genin and his team. He didn't go into details, like he said, except for describing his squad, and he only talked about major things. He must have talked for at least an hour. When he paused for some oxygen, Sana asked, "So Sasuke left to get more powerful to kill his brother?" "That's charming." Naruto smiled. "Yeah, but that's an even longer story. But anyways, when Sasuke did leave, I left for 3 years to train with the pervy sage, Jiraiya. Sakura learned to be a medic ninja from training with Tsunade. He talked a bit about how his life went on from there. So, you said you got Sasuke back, how?" Sana asked, paying attention. The blonde's expression darkened a bit. "Well, it's rather complicated." Sana took the hint. "I'll ask you about it a different day," she said. Naruto shot her a thank you look before looking ahead of him. They walked in silence for a while until Sana broke it. "So, why did you leave?" The blonde snorted, surprising the girl. "I didn't get a choice on leaving. The elders of the village banished me. They said that they were tired of having the demon child in their village. Them and a few others. Was there nothing you could have done? They made their minds up. At the meeting, they gave me a choice. I could leave myself or they could chase me out. I chose to leave myself. Since I did that, some of my friends think I just left." "When you left, she wanted him to keep going. Did you go straight to the village we are going to now?" Naruto nodded. "Yup. I have friends there. Gaara, Tamari, and Kankuro of the Sand. Gaara has a demon in him too. He is the one tail while I'm the 9. They accepted me and I've made the sand my home. But, I travel a lot, so I'm hardly there. Will your friends not mind me coming?" "Nah, I'll tell them the situation you were in. Either way, they won't mind." As they continued to walk, another silence grew between them, though this one was longer. While they walked, the trees started to thin out and a few piles of sand started to make itself known. Sana looked over at her sensei to find him deep in thought a while later. He had his hands buried in his pockets as he looked ahead of himself. His face was washed of all emotions except for this thinking face. "Whatever it may be. Naruto." He didn't look at her. Can we start running?" she asked, feeling bored from just walking. When they run, they go faster and it's easier to think about things. When you're walking, you just go so slow. "Sure," he said absently. The two started running and before they knew it, 2 hours had passed. They came to a halt on the border of the forest and started into an open sea of sand. "We don't have very long till we reach the village," Naruto said, rather cheery all of a sudden. Sana nodded. "How long would that be?" "Well, about half an hour. We're rather close to our destination." Once again, the two were off running. "What's Gaara like?" the girl asked out of curiosity. Naruto thought for a moment, thinking of the best explanation to describe the redhead. "He's hard to explain. At first glance, he seems imitating and scary and he acts like that for a while, but after a while and you get to know him, he's not as scary." He smiled. "He doesn't talk a lot like me, but talks. If that makes sense. If you're wondering, I'm part of their family, Kankuros, Temaris and Gaaras. They adopted me. Like you adopted me?" Sana asked quietly. With the trees no longer shielding the two, the afternoon sun blazed down on them. Naruto's blue eyes glimmered and he nodded his head. "Just like I adopted you. XXXXX. Naruto and Sana made it into the village without meeting any scouts. Probably because they knew it was Naruto and that he was no threat. The blonde led Sana up the side stairs of a huge building. Once they reached the top, Naruto had Sana stop as he bit his left thumb, surprising Sana, and smeared the fresh blood on the sand building. In a flash, the dried sand crumbled away like the sand falling from an hourglass to reveal a hallway. The blonde grinned and motioned for the girl to go it. It's a code only me and Gaara know. He explained as Sana walked in cautiously. Using your own blood, either mine or his, the other is alerted on where the other is. So, if I'm out on some mission or whatever and Gaara uses the code, I know he's okay. They walked down the small hallway. It was bare except for torches lining the walls, every few yards or so. The walls were made from sand, but it was dried and hard. Is that all it does? Nope. Besides it only telling us that the other is okay, it sends an image to both of us on how the other. So it sends you an image. Like you will see what he's doing and vice versa. She guessed. Yup. As of now, Gaara is in a meeting, so we're just going to our lounging room. Sana nodded. Naruto. A female's voice sounded somewhere ahead. So you finally come home after what, 3 months? 3.5, sis. A different voice commented. This voice was a bit deep though friendly. Obviously as was male. Naruto smiled from his adopted sibling's comments. I was busy, he yelled back as he and Sana finally came into view with a large, circular room. The room looked pretty relaxing. There were a few couches facing one another, rugs covering the sandy floor, a coffee table in the middle of the couches. In the far corner of the room was a mini kitchen with a big fridge. A table was also in the kitchen. Pictures of people hung on the walls, pictures of the siblings. One of them even had Gaara doing a funny pose on of the end tables that was against a wall held some plants and a lamp while the other table had a rather large candle burning and with 4 pictures on it. Lounging on one of the couches with her feet tucked underneath her was a blonde woman, her hair separated into 4 ponytails. 2 on top 2 on bottom. She was wearing a black kimono that was short-sleeved and had a giant closed fan on the ground in front of her. She had a cup of what looked to be tea in her hands. In the kitchen was a man with black pants and shirt. On his face was purple paint. He had brown hair on top of his head. His hood was down. He walked over to Naruto. How was your traveling? The man asked and grasped the blonde's forearm in greetings. We thought you were never coming back. Naruto laughed. It was all right, been training mostly. The two let each other go as they walked towards the couches. Sana stayed right behind Naruto like a puppy. Ah, learn anything new? Naruto grinned mischievously. Wheel of course, Kankuro. You don't think I'd train myself for 2 months straight without learning anything new, would you? The man, Kankuro chuckled. Before he could say anything, the lady on the couch looked behind the blonde and asked, Naruto, who's behind you? The blonde looked behind himself to find Sana being shy and hiding herself. He laughed and gave her a gently push with his hand to bring her forward. This is Sana. I saved her from a group of bandits and am training her to become a ninja. Sana, this is Kankuro and Tamari. Sana just acknowledged them with a nod of her head. Well, hello there, Sana. As Naruto said, I'm Kankuro. Kankuro said and walked over to her and knelt down. He held his hand out and had on a friendly smile. Sana took his hand in hers. His hand was warm and firm and strong. They parted. Tamari got up from the couch and put her mug down on the table before walking over to her. Like her brother, she knelt down and held out her own hand. I'm Tamari. It's a pleasure to meet you. She smiled warmly. Sana took her hand before saying, the pleasure's all mine. Tamari's hand was soft and gently but at the same time firm. When they parted, the older one stood up. Well, Sana, how long have you known Naruto? Tamari asked. She walked back to the couch. But before she did, she sent an odd look to the blonde, thinking that Sana wasn't looking. Sana looked up at Naruto. He smiled down at her before following Tamari's lead and walked over to the couches. About a month. She answered, also following the others. Everyone sat down. Tamari back in her spot with Kankuro sitting next to her and Naruto relaxing on the couch opposite from them. He leaned his head back against the couch board. Sana stood next to the couch, feeling awkward. Tamari smiled. You can sit down, Sana. It won't bite. She nodded and sat down on the very edge of the chair that Naruto was sitting on. She placed her hands in her lap and looked down at them. So, what's been going on? Naruto asked. He closed his eyes, feeling comforted by his surroundings. If they let him, he would have fallen asleep right then and there. The usual, Kankuro replied. Missions, scouting, meetings. Even though the blonde's eyes were closed, he could image him grimacing. But, everything's been dull and boring with you gone. You always take all of the fun with you when you leave. And Gaara was getting worried about you. He was tempted to go and look for you. Temari added. Naruto's eyes flashed open and had a wide but hurt grin on his face. I'm hurt. Does he not think I can take care of myself? Of course not. A different voice said. Sana looked around, as did everyone else, to find a man about Naruto's height, has red hair, light blue eyes with a black surrounding it. On his forehead had the symbol of love on it. He was wearing dark maroon color clothes and with black pants. He walked into the room with his arms crossed at his chest. Hey, Gaara. Naruto stood up and greeted the redhead halfway. Like Kankuro's greeting, Naruto and Gaara grasped forearms. In a calm, low voice, Gaara responded, Naruto, I assume your training went well. The blonde chuckled as the two step-brothers, that's what I'll be mentioning them as, step-brothers, walked over to the couches. Naruto sat in his spot and Gaara stood standing. He looked over to Sana, who looked away feeling uncomfortable. You are Sana, I assume? He asked. She looked up and met his eyes and nodded. I am Gaara. Welcome to the sand. Sana nodded her thanks. Gaara looked at Naruto before saying, I need yo talk with you, Naruto. The blonde let out a playful groan and stood up. He stretched real fast before Gaara turned away and, with Naruto following close behind, started to walk back the way he entered the room. Kankuro stood up as well and quickly pursued after them, leaving Temari and Sana alone in the room. Once the three boys left, Temari watched Sana with a thoughtful expression. So, Sana, how old are you? Sana looked up from her hands and answered, 11. The other chick nodded. So, you're an 11-year-old girl. Do you like to shop? Shop? Don't tell me you don't know what shopping is. She raised an eyebrow, a bit shocked. When Sana just looked at her, she explained, you know, buying stuff. Clothes and shows and jewelry and new weapons. Then she thought, I guess she's never been shopping before. The 11-year-old nodded her head in understanding. Oh, shopping. Well, to tell you the truth, I've only been shopping once. With the shock clearly on her face, Temari blinked. Really? Sana nodded her head. Then, Temari smiled with an evil grin on her face. Well then, that's going to change. XXXXX. Gaara led Naruto and Kankuro out into the hallway and closed the door so that the two in the room couldn't hear them. He turned to the blonde. Explain. He crossed his arms like he always does whenever he expected an explanation or story or a report. One of his signature stances, some would say. Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes. I was coming home a few weeks ago when I ran into a campsite. The site was trashed out with all of these men lounging around. From the sight of them, I could tell they were bandits. And from looking at their stuff and some of the guys cleaning the blood off their swords and other weapons, they just got down terrorizing a village. So, I killed the lot so they wouldn't be messing with anyone else. What about the girl? Kankuro asked, standing in the same stance as his biological brother. He tilted his head towards the closed door, indicating Sana. Naruto's expression changed and turned serious with an edge to it. Sana's father treated her like a slave. She had chains around her wrists and neck and was wearing dirty, torn clothes. If you saw her there, looking like she was, you would have done the same thing. She didn't belong there. Not to mention that her father was the leader of the bunch, making it worst of all. So, after I killed the men, I took her and went to find a village. He continued. I left her with a nice family in a village and left her there. When I left, she was asleep. About an hour or two later, I was on my way here when I felt someone following me. The person following me was Sana. Kankuro raised an eyebrow. I questioned her about why she followed me, and let's just say she didn't want to live there and wanted to stay with me. His expression became thoughtful but still had an edge to it, like he didn't want to say what had really happened. I've been training her for the last 3 weeks. What else? Gaara prompted. There is none. I haven't gotten her backstory of what had happened to her yet. I gave her mine, though, hoping that it'll help her trust me more to share some things. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and closed his eyes with a sigh. I can say though, that part of her trusts me, and the other part doesn't. When he reopened his eyes, they were troubled. Gaara's expression was unreadable, like always. So you took her in. He sounded like he was just making sure that's what his stepbrother meant. So you're allowing her to live with you? Naruto nodded his head. Until she doesn't want to be around me. I'm not forcing her to do anything she doesn't want to. And, if she doesn't want to live with me, then I won't stop her in leaving. I just wanted to make sure she was away and lived a free life. If she wants to stay with me, she is welcomed. After a moment of silence, Naruto asked, is that all you wanted to talk about? Gaara nodded his head, just making sure. With their talk now done, the 3 shinobi walked back into the room where the 2 girls were still seated on the couches. Temari and Sana were still in the same places when the boys got back. Though, they had started talking. When the boys came into view, they stopped and watched them come over and took their original places. Welcome back. Temari greeted with a smile, saying, you better tell me what's happening later. Naruto got comfortable on the couch next to Sana and leaned back. She greeted him with a shy smile and a nod of her head. Gaara now stood behind Naruto's couch instead of sitting down. For some reason, he always found standing more comfortable. So, what were you two talking about? Naruto asked, starting up a conversation. Sana looked over to Temari, who grinned. Oh, nothing that concerns you. The blonde furrowed his eyebrows and frowned. Come on, you know I hate when you do this. He whined, giving the impression that he was 10 instead of his 21 years. If I tell you, Temari grinned, having that evil smile in place, and gave a wink over to Sana. Then you'll have to come shopping with us and pay for whatever we want. Naruto gulped, losing his frown. So, Gaara, how was the meeting? He asked, changing the subject as fast as he could. He leaned his head back to look at the cage upside down. As they talked, Sana started to loosen up and relax. She found herself leaning into the comfortable couch. The bickering and playful arguments reminded her of her mother and few siblings she had. Even though they were all young, they still playfully argued. She felt her eyelids slowly close on her, having no more energy to keep them opened. Her breathing slowed down until each breath was even and smooth. While the 4 siblings continued their playful bickering, well, Naruto and Kankuro, Sana was dozing off, comfortable where she was. But, while she started to fall asleep, she began to get into the position she always sleeps in. She slowly curled into a ball and snuggled up against what she thought was a pillow. Naruto stopped talking when he felt someone gently grab his arm and felt that someone lean on him. He looked down and smiled. Sana was asleep and subconsciously snuggling against him. Well, should we be concerned, Naruto? Temari teased, though she thought it was cute how Sana just grabbed a hold of him in her sleep. Like a little kid, Naruto turned to the chick and stuck his tongue out at her. When Temari stuck her tongue out at him, he rolled his eyes and looked back down to Sana. I guess I tired her out by all of the running today. He said, and gently brushed a strand of her hair from her eyes and tucked it behind her ear. That, or maybe she's just found peace and is relaxing. Kyuubi commented in his head. She watched the child with a warm expression. For the first time since they met her, this was the first she ever looked so in peace. Well, I'm going to go put her in my room where she can sleep without being woken up by Kankuro's yelling. Naruto smirked to Kankuro, who glared at him. He lightly pulled his arm out of her grasp and scooped her into his arms as gently as possible, trying not to wake her up. In his arms, Sana immediately snuggled against his chest. I'll be back, he said and walked out of the room and down the hallway he, Gaara, and Kankuro were occupying half an hour ago. During the walk to his room from the living room, it was quiet. Not even the light from the holders made any sound. Best time to let your mind wander, and that is exactly what Naruto did. What you said earlier, Kyuubi, could it be true? That she found peace, I mean. Naruto thought, wondering if that could be true. Well, she seems relaxed. And by the way her expression is, she's in peace. I don't think you fall asleep looking like that and is mad about something, do you? And when she fell asleep against you, she's never done that before. Right now, her aura is calm. The fox answered. Aura? You can feel that? Naruto asked, a bit surprised. You may always say you know everything about a person, but you always find out that is a lie. Kyuubi rolled her eyes. Oh kid, you are something. For the millionth time, I have already answered that question. Make sure it sticks to that small brain of yours. Yes, I can feel people's auras. Though, you have to be at close radius if I am able to read it. Naruto sent back a cocky grin in response to her answer. I always ask myself why I was even locked inside you. Why couldn't my vessel be someone smarter? She mused. Naruto turned down a hallway. If you had someone else, you'd miss me too much. Don't deny the truth, he added when the fox rolled her eyes. He stopped right outside one of the many doors on the hallway. Though, unlike all of the other doors, in the middle of the wood was the spiral symbol of the Leaf Village. He may have been banished, but he still held on to his old life, but like he still held on to his old headband even if he doesn't wear it anymore. As gently as he could, he adjusted Sana so he could open the door. Even though evening has not yet approached, the room was pitch black. The only light seen was from the hallway, illuminating a few objects in the room. The blonde took a step into his room and flipped the light switch on to reveal a bed, dresser, a desk with a lamp, and another door that went to the bathroom. Naruto walked further into the room and went to the bed. He slowly placed the sleeping girl on his bed and grabbed a blanket at the end to place over her. He turned around to leave, but something grabbed his wrist. He turned around to see sleepy green eyes watching him. Sana, sorry to disturb you, but I thought you wanted to sleep on something more comfortable. Naruto explained. The little girl released him and sat up, rubbing the sleep out of her dazzling green eyes. She muttered, you know, she said in a soft voice, you told me about you and your life. I was thinking that if you are to trust me, I should tell you mine. You already allowed me to live with you and invited me to your home. I think it's only fair. Naruto frowned, touched that she wanted to share, but he didn't find it necessary right now. You don't have to. Sana cut him off with a small shake of her head. I want you to trust me, but in order to do that, you need to know a bit more about me. Naruto nodded and sat down on the edge of his bed, waiting for her to start. Sana brought her knees up to her chest and wrapped her slender arms around them. She started off in a small, quiet voice. I know you're curious about my father and why he did what he did. But, just so you know, he wasn't always like that. When I was around 5 years old, I lived with my father, my mother, and my 2 younger brothers. We were a happy family. Me and my brothers were more closer to my mother because she was always home while my father went to work. That's how it always is with every family. Well, we loved our mother very, very much. She protected us from everything, from bugs to snakes, from bullies at the academy to when my father got mad. Sana's eyes glazed over as she spoke. Even though we were a happy family, my father always got into a drunk rage whenever he was either mad or something happened at work. Naruto stayed quiet, but mentally, growled in his throat. Sometimes at night, my father would come home late because he was out drinking his problems away. When he got home, he always yelled very loudly and sometimes, he even hit my mom. It usually depended on how mad and drunk he was if he came into the room I shared with my 2 other brothers. I was usually huddled with my brothers on my bed, hugging them tight, wishing for my father to stop yelling. But that never happened. If he came into our room, he would pry me from my brothers and he always hit me and yell at me. I was too little to understand what he was yelling about. She paused for a moment, lost in her memories. Gently, Naruto placed a hand on hers. She didn't look up, though he whispered in an encouraging voice, "Go on." Well, it stayed like that for a little over a year. We couldn't tell anyone because he threatened to kill my younger brother. Tears welled up into her eyes. And that's exactly what happened. Just one time, I was talking to one of the officers because they were asking about a bruise I had on my cheek. I told them that I fell. They believed me and didn't question me anymore and they left. That only lasted for like a minute. Well, when I got home, my mother was sitting with her back to the door in a growing puddle of blood. I got scared. Now, the tears fell freely down her cheeks and she did nothing to wipe them away. My father somehow saw me talking to the officer. He thought I had told him that he was abusing us. He killed my little brother. After that, she sniffled as she continued, my mother tried to run away with me and my other brother. We thought we got a good ways, but my father had followed us. He caught up with us when we stopped to take a break and he. Right in front of me, he slaughtered my defenseless brother and my mom. This time, she buried her head in her knees. In a muffled voice, though Naruto could still understand her, she continued, my father didn't want to be found out that he killed his family, minus me. So he ran away from our home, forcing me to go along with him. We were living on the road, stealing from people and killing others. I kept trying to run away from him, to escape, but he would always find me, hurt me, and then forced me to stay with him. Along the way, my father started gathering followers. With the other guys, my father treated me more like a slave and always had me run and cook them something to eat or give them entertainment. She shuddered. It's been like that until you found me. For 5 years, I lived like that. As she finished her story, Kyubi, who had been listening, whispered, she's had a rough childhood. Naruto nodded and scooted over to sit beside her. He gently pulled her into her arms and asked her, what were your brothers' names? Cal and Kato. They were twins. Sana sobbed. She lifted her face from her knees and buried it into Naruto's chest as she continued to cry. The blonde nodded and took her ponytail out of her hair. Slowly, he ran his hand through her hair to help calm her down. You know, I can't relate to your life, but I can help ease some of your pain. Naruto whispered. He rested his cheek on top of her head. When I was still growing up, I didn't have a family or any friends. No one liked me because I had Kyubi in me. I was abused and was called demon child, so it was very hard to make friends. By that time, I didn't know about Kyubi. That kind of information was kept top secret from the new generation, even from me. Only the adults knew about it because they witnessed it. My mother and father both died when the Nine-Tails Fox attacked the Leaf Village, so I didn't have any siblings. It wasn't until I was a part of Squad 7 that I actually gained friends. 12 years later and I made friends with Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha and my sensei Kakashi Hatake. Then, I started to gain more friends, but what I'm trying to really get at is I know what it's like losing a brother. It's not exactly the same of how you lost your family, but in a way, it is. Sana tilted her head up a bit to peek at him with one of her red, puffy eyes. Naruto lifted his head off of hers. He continued, thankful that he was calming her down even if it was just a bit. Me and Sasuke, we really hated each other. He was the cool, good-looking guy with everyone liking him while I was the class clown. Then, how'd you become friends? Sana asked in a soft, broken voice. Tears remained flowing out of her eyes and down her cheek. Naruto sadly smiled as he relived his own memories. We never officially became friends. Well, kind of. We became friends, but we annoyed each other so much, People wouldn't even give us a second thought that we were friends. That's just how we were. Secretly, without us even realizing it, we became best friends. We really didn't take notice until one day we were fighting each other to try to kill one another. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I will have to tell you that story a different time. It's just, I know how you feel when you say you lost your family because someone killed them. I lost my best friend, my brother, and it was devastating. I never met my parents, so I wouldn't know about that. By the sound of it, your friend, he didn't die. To affirm her guess, Naruto nodded. So, there's always a way to get him back. There's no way to bring Cal and Kato back. They're dead. More tears slide down her face like a never-ending river. Naruto thought for a minute. Even though he was just trying to find a way to get her to stop crying, which had sort of worked, he thought of something that made him nervous to ask. Would she say yes? Sana, how about, if you want a brother, you've got one. She shook her head and hid her face again against his chest. I can't. My mother is already dead. She cannot have any more kids. Naruto chuckled. That's not what I mean. You need someone to love you and protect you. You know, I've never had a little sister before. The arms around him tightened. How would you like to become my Imoto-chan? He asked, using the Japanese term of little sister. Sana stiffened at the question. Then, without further ado, she nodded her head and cried, yes. As long as you will be my Nisama. She said using the Japanese term of big brother. Naruto nodded and hugged her tightly against him. But, I need to know just one thing, Sana. I know this sounds crazy and funny at the same time, but what's your last name? I don't know. It's been so long since I've used it. I guess, I don't really have one. She whispered. Naruto nodded again. Would you like one? Sana nodded her head. Well, then, welcome to the family, Sana Uzumaki.